The Black Tank Battalion Patton praised and still refused to believe in. George Patton stood before the 761st Tank Battalion in France and told its men that he wanted only the best. They were black soldiers in a segregated army, about to become the first African-American tankers sent into combat by the United States. Patton needed their Shermans. He praised their ability. Yet behind the speech was a harder truth. He still doubted that black men could fight effectively in armor. The meeting came in late October 1944, as Patton's Third Army prepared to renew its offensive in Lorraine. Rain had soaked the roads. Fuel, ammunition, and replacements were under pressure. The Germans were dug into villages, woods, and fortified approaches toward the Saar. Patton wanted more combat power, and the 761st had finally arrived after years of training and delay. Its soldiers were ready. The institution that trained them was not ready to treat them as equals. Activated at Camp Claiborne, Louisiana, in April 1942, the battalion had been built inside the racial rules of the Jim Crow Army. Most of its enlisted men and many junior officers were black. Its senior command structure remained largely white. The tankers learned to operate M4 Shermans, repair engines, coordinate fire, and maneuver under pressure. Outside the training grounds, they faced segregated facilities, hostile towns, and military police who enforced a color line their uniforms did not erase. The unit's motto was blunt: "Come out fighting." It described more than combat. Black troops were widely assigned to labor and service roles because senior officers questioned their intelligence, discipline, and courage. The 761st had to prove that it could master one of the Army's most demanding forms of warfare while knowing that any failure might be blamed on race. White units were permitted to fail as units. The 761st could be judged as an entire people. Patton's connection made that pressure immediate. He was not a distant figure lending his name to a later legend. As commander of the Third Army, he controlled the battlefield system into which the battalion entered. His headquarters assigned its missions, shifted it among infantry divisions, and consumed its tanks in the advance. Patton wanted aggressive armored soldiers. The 761st needed a commander willing to put it into combat. Each side had something the other required. When Patton addressed the battalion, he acknowledged that the soldiers carried expectations far beyond their military task. He told them that the Army, the public, and Black Americans were watching. He demanded results and warned them not to disappoint him. The message could sound almost colorblind when reduced to its most repeated line: he did not care about color if a soldier fought. But the speech also placed a racial burden on men already denied equal treatment. Patton's private judgment was less generous. In his post-war account, he wrote that individual black troops could be good soldiers, yet maintained that a black soldier could not think quickly enough for armored combat. That was not a minor prejudice unrelated to the story. Fast decisions were the essence of tank warfare. Patton was effectively questioning whether the men he had just sent forward possessed the mental capacity to perform the job for which they had trained. The contradiction was now armed with Sherman tanks. On November 7, 1944, the 761st entered combat near Morville-les-Vicq while supporting the 26th Infantry Division. Mud narrowed movement. German anti-tank weapons covered roads and village approaches. The battalion's companies were divided among infantry formations that needed close armored support. There was no safe demonstration period. The first real test came under fire. With infantrymen depending on the crews, Patton privately doubted. The fighting immediately punished mistakes. Tanks became trapped by mines, roadblocks, poor visibility, and constricted lanes. Crews had to leave armor to inspect obstacles while mortars and small arms fire struck around them. Black tank commanders made the rapid calculations Patton claimed they could not make. Whether to advance, reverse, bypass, dismount, or expose a vehicle to protect infantry. The debate over racial ability became physical. Steel burned. Men died inside it. Staff Sergeant Reuben Rivers made the contradiction impossible to ignore. Near Vic-sur-Seille, a German obstacle halted the advance while enemy fire pinned down supporting infantry. Rivers left the protection of his tank, moved forward under fire, and helped clear a path through the obstruction. His action allowed the column to move again. He received the Silver Star. The decision demanded exactly what armored combat required: speed, nerve, technical judgment, and awareness of men outside the tank. Days later, Rivers was wounded when his tank struck a mine near Gebling. The injury was severe enough for evacuation. He refused to leave his company. Remaining in command, he continued to direct his tank during the battalion's bitter struggle through the Lorraine villages. On November 19th, German fire hit his vehicle. Rivers was killed. His courage benefited the infantry and tankers fighting beside him. His family received the loss. The Army kept the larger racial system intact. The 761st continued without him. Its crews fought through Lorraine, crossed into Germany, and later endured winter combat during the Ardennes campaign. The battalion was repeatedly attached to white infantry divisions that needed its firepower, then separated again by the Army's personnel rules. On the battlefield, white infantrymen climbed behind black-operated tanks for protection. Away from combat, those same tankers remained members of a segregated force. Patton benefited directly. The battalion gave Third Army additional armored strength when manpower, vehicles, and time were scarce. Its crews destroyed enemy positions, opened routes, supported infantry assaults, and replaced losses while Patton pushed east. Their success could be absorbed into his command's record. Their racial significance was easier to isolate. Patton could use black combat effectiveness without surrendering his belief in black inferiority. The public story emphasized performance. Commanders praised the battalion after its first actions, and Black War correspondent Tresvant Anderson helped preserve the names and experiences of men who might otherwise have disappeared inside general campaign reports. Yet recognition remained uneven. Heroism was recorded through recommendations, after-action reports, photographs, and casualty lists. But the country that demanded proof from the 761st was slow to examine what that proof said about its own policies. Patton never completed that examination. His writings preserved both sides of the contradiction: admiration for individual soldiers who performed aggressively and a racial theory that dismissed the group's intellectual capacity. The 761st did not convert him into an advocate of equality. Its battlefield record instead exposed the weakness of his premise. The soldiers succeeded not because prejudice had vanished, but while a powerful commander continued to carry it. Official recognition came late. In 1978, more than 3 decades after the fighting, the 761st received a Presidential Unit Citation for its World War II service. Rivers waited longer. His actions were reviewed during efforts to determine whether racial discrimination had denied black servicemen the nation's highest military decoration. In 1997, President Bill Clinton awarded Rivers the Medal of Honor posthumously. The evidence had survived. The judgment had taken 52 years. The hardest truth is not that Patton secretly admired the battalion, or that one speech made him racially enlightened. Neither claim fits the record. He gave the 761st a chance to fight, because Third Army needed capable tankers, then watched those men deliver what he demanded. Their success strengthened his army and his reputation. It did not erase his prejudice. Patton said he wanted the best. The 761st proved it was among them, and the country still needed decades to admit what he would not.